Greetings, loyalists and heretics. Welcome to Iron and Ceramite, where we once again enter the warp without an astropath.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Iron and Ceramite Podcast. My name is John, and today I'm joined by Shane.
Hello.
And Dave.
Hi, guys.
Hello, guys. Long time no see.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. How are you doing?
I mean, it's been so long that the wash has gone round and this is clean again.
Oh, yeah, me too. Fresh hoodie. Well, no, actually, that stinks. Oh, no, do you know what? The only thing I didn't mention on the last a week ago was that I finished Mechanicum, finally.
Ah, well done. Very good work.
Yes. So I was just working it out as well before we started recording. So that's book 9. So when I first read the 9 books that I've read twice now, I read them in 4.5 months. It's taken me 13 months to read them again and make probably, I'd say, 800 pages of notes.
I was going to say, and what, on average, 4 videos per book?
On average, yeah. And Mechanicum's going to be, I don't know. I know we said part 3 might do in 1, but I don't know. This might be a 7-parter, you know.
It happens. It happens. You get stuck into it. There's a lot of detail.
Yeah, but I have read the first couple of pages of Blood Games.
Oh.
In Tales of Heresy, yes.
Oh well, of course. Well, what I was going that's where we need to get the obviously Dave and the other members of Iron and Ceramite involved, because the Tales of Heresy, that's the first compilation book. It's nice and easy. They're short.
Yeah. Well, they're about 60 pages a story. So I know
that sounds too much for me.
Although we I was going to say we've never done, is it 15 hours?
No, we haven't.
I'm going to have to read that again.
So will I.
Yeah, I have 4 pages of notes for 15 hours when we first said we were going to do it, and then I was like, but now I'm falling behind on. I think that was when we were still doing Descent of Angels.
It was right back in it, and I was like, right, I better read this so that we can do it. And I read it.
Yeah, because you all nagged at me for fucking ages, and I read it all, and I read it in a few days.
Yeah,
and then nothing ever fucking came of it.
It's a good book. Like,
it is a really good book.
Again,
it is,
but it's got to record it. We're gonna, but I'm not going to read it again if we're not going to record it.
No, I think we need to do. We need to do the rest of the. I don't know when we're going to do it.
We've also got Marnius Calgar the comic, which we haven't done.
Yeah, that's all ready to go. Tom's still got my comics. I've got his first few Warhammer monthlies.
Oh, nice.
I was going to also do a series on, which I've read and really enjoyed. But again, it's just a case of I need to get, because he's got like all of them. I need to get the next lot off of him.
He got them on eBay, right? They're the eBay buy, right?
Yeah, he got them for an absolute steal, I think. And they're brilliant, like really old style comics. Like the old, like if you've read them, they're great. And there's different stories in them, some fantasy and some 40k, like really old school 40k stuff. They're some of it's quite cheesy, but the stories are good.
I'm very jealous of that eBay buy he got. It's a treasure trove.
I've been sitting on them for ages, and I've got the good old PowerPoints of the Iron and Ceramite specials. They're all ready to go. It's just getting around to doing it, and I don't know if Tom's finished it. And then I've got the Sisters of Battle comics. I've got the first 3 here that I need to read, because it's all good stuff. It's just getting around to doing it, isn't it?
It's too much content. I've like my the new edition of White Dwarf turned up on the doorstep today as well. There's some good stuff in there. Like, as I said, nothing is not quite as good as last month's one, but I think it's some of the Eldar or the new Eldari cards in there. So for the secondary missions and stuff like that, if you're running those, and a nice little battle report. So I don't know whether I'll do a review of this one like I did last month, but it's another good 40k version of White Dwarf. They tend to swing between 40k and Age of Sigmar, but this one is another one that's quite heavy on 40k. So it's a good addition.
That was a good little video you did. It was so good. Tom went out and bought a copy.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah. And then annoyingly,
Everyone.
he went out and bought. He offered to buy us some, and I shouldn't have said yes, but I was pretty drunk, and I was like, "Yeah, I want it. I want this thing that I'm never going to read or use." I've got to go and collect that and pay him for that now. So yeah, thanks a lot, Shane.
Sorry. No, it's a good copy. It's one worth having.
You got yours, Dave. You bought yours up, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got mine, and I brought the cards to yours when we played the other day. So I've used mine already, or some of mine. So
Well,
definitely worth getting.
It's a very Templar. The last one was very Templar heavy, like the War of Faith or whatever.
Yeah.
Very very Templar adjacent.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Exterminatus.
Yeah. it was like right. Well,
Yeah.
go for the silence.
So before we were talking before we started recording again about playing a few games and stuff, and obviously on the last episode we got into the points increases, and we're going to talk a bit about chapter approved and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, probably not chapter improved, but yeah, chapter approved.
Yeah, a bit like the Bukkake party. And so
I can't wait for that paint to come out.
I was going to just say, Shane, for those uninitiated, what is not a Bukkake party? What is chapter approved, and how does that all work?
Yeah, so chapter approved. So it's the for a good couple of years now. It's basically what Games Workshop released for the tournament scene. So it normally will coincide after the launch of the core book. So we had the Indomitus that had the new core rule book for this edition. That in it you get the open war missions, and then you will get chapter approved shortly afterwards. That will include additional missions, additional secondaries, additional rules that you can add on top to play the game, as well as points changes for your units and your armies. Now, if you're a player that doesn't play in the tournaments, you might never come across it because it doesn't matter, especially back in the day where internet changes, like the updates to apps and stuff like that, didn't happen. You would be building your lists on pen and paper. It would all be core rule book, and then if you actually went to tournaments and stuff like that, you would buy chapter approved. You would buy these additional points increases or decreases via these additional books. Normally it's one chapter approved per year, so it updates every year for the tournament scene, points changes, as well as secondaries and new mission types. This year is the first time that I think Warhammer or Games Workshop they're moving to a bit more of a to use a computer game parlance, DLC. So whereas before it was just called chapter approved and you would have points changes, we moved into the last chapter approved. They included a secondary called
Retrieval Chorus
data, because that was the current flashpoint, as GW calls it. So the point in the lore where there is a lot of activity happening in the 40k universe. And now we move on to the next one, which is the Nachmund Gauntlet. And so it's chapter approved, and you have the Munitorum points changes, but it's branded as Nachmund, whereas previously it was just chapter approved. So this is the first time that they've done it this outwardly. As I said, even last time when it still had Octarius data, it was still just chapter approved. This is the first time that they've gone and branded it like Nachmund as that arena. And I believe it's going to be twice a year now that they're going to be releasing this as a kind of DLC update. Now, for those of you that play tournament, it's a must buy. You have to have it because that's what the tournament scene is going to be following. for those that play at hobby clubs or like we do, just a group of friends, it's more of a add-on that you can have. You don't have to have, and like the open war deck that we use as well. Like that gets updated again. The open war tends to get updated per edition. Whereas they seem to be making these updates more and more regularly, which is why there is that drive, I suppose, within the community to make it more digital. Because especially in the last update, the Grand Tournament chapter approved, it's a very, very slim edition compared to previous years. Like previous years, you'd have the core rules, you'd have various bits and pieces in it. So you take your little pamphlet, but it would have the core rules. You wouldn't have to lug the core book around with you as well. And it was the same cost. This year, it's just the mission packs, not the core rules. So you're still having to have your big core book plus this additional Grand Tournament pack, plus if you want it as well, the points changes. The points changes, that's you would never buy this for the points changes because that's all digital now anyway. If you've subscribed to the Warhammer app, that's updated. Other sources of list building like Battlescribe, like other places like that, they're updated very close afterwards as well. So you don't really need to buy a chapter approved for the points updates. It's really for the mission packs. And the mission packs themselves are really, really good. Like there are some new bits and pieces in there. There are some updates to how retrieving data works that's really worthwhile and valuable. Is it worth the amount that GW is putting on it? I mean, that's a debate that's all over comment sections and blogs, YouTube channels everywhere. So we don't need to necessarily go into that. What I would say is that the mission packs themselves, the missions I think are a real improvement and are something that I'm really looking forward to playing. I think the points changes we talked about in the last pod very quickly, but it's one of the tools that GW has to make sure that they're able to, push models that maybe people aren't using as much. Selfishly, I'm all good with the points changes because it's been great for Necrons, it's okay for Space Wolves, and it hasn't changed for 1,000 Suns. So good for me. But I know for Death Guard, it's it's been a mixed bag.
Yeah, like we say, they're obviously the tournament scene seems to be demon engines. So Blight Haulers and Plague Burst Crawlers are a little bit cheaper. Plague Marines, I think the biggest complaint is the fact that Poxwalkers have gone up at 1 point, Terminators have gone up a couple of points, and the Power Blightspawn went up 15. If you play that, it's a bit of a pain. I think if they had taken some points off of Plague Marines, then no one would really be complaining too much because it would balance it out. Yeah. Because Plague Marines, I think personally, they're obsec, so they're great for that, but they're very easy. Even with Disgustingly Resilient, they're very easy to clear off the board. Even like when I've had squads of 10, they've not lasted, once they've got into it, they've not lasted long. Imperial Fists and other sort of gun lines are quite good at wiping them off with the right weapons.
What's the difference in points between a Poxwalker and a Plague Marine?
Oh, well, Plague Marine, without anything, I think is 21 points standard before you add anything to it. I think Poxwalker is obviously 6 points per Poxwalker.
Yeah. And Poxwalkers are OBSEC as well, aren't they?
Poxwalkers and Plague Marines, the only thing that we've got are OBSEC. So, and then normally, so obviously you can get up to 20 Poxwalkers in a squad and push them up, and they're not easy to clear. Like, as you know, if you get into melee, like you could get stuck with them the whole game if you're unlucky. Normally not. Normally you can clear them and move on, but they are very good at getting you tied up and hold on to you.
Especially if they're charging. If they're charging, they can take a couple of yours out.
Yeah.
And a couple of theirs come back. They're just a pain in the arse unit, aren't they? Yeah. And I know a lot of people are saying, it's only 1 point per model. But when you're running, like you say, either 10 or 20 Poxwalkers, when you've got your list that you got in your head and you start adding 10, 20 points per unit. It does add up.
And
it is.
The way
At first, I was thinking it wasn't too bad, but it does really add up with that sort of unit.
The way I build lists is I'll put all the basics in that I think I want to take, and then I'll normally bump the Poxwalkers up to the full 20.
Yeah.
So, well, I've added this to that, so I'll take a Poxwalker off or 2 Poxwalkers off, and that's how I do it, because it's like, well, I need to have Poxwalkers on there, a minimum of 10. So any extra Poxwalkers I can have as a bonus. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like I said on the last episode, for 1,000 points, I ended up losing 5, and then it was 998 points. Fine.
But your Poxwalkers, because you can only have a unit of Poxwalkers if you've got a unit of bubonic Astartes, right? But your Terminators count as bubonic Astartes, right?
Yeah. So I can run if I run two squads of Terminators, then I can have 2 squads of Poxwalkers.
I was going to say, so there's lists where you would go, rather than taking Plague Marines, you just take 2 blobs of 20 Poxwalkers and 2 blobs of 5.
Well, and I found that the way that I play, I've won more games when I don't take Plague Marines. Because they're not as resilient as you want them to be. They have got some good strats for like some good things you can spend CP on to make their weapons more improved. But I generally tend to spend my CP on relics or other things like bringing Poxwalkers back, because they're a pain in the ass and they're harder to kill, because you got that lucky 6 up and you can bring them back as well if you kill something. I probably don't play them the best way, like we was talking about before. You can stick a bunch in get a couple of Chaos Rhinos and stick a load in there and send them up the board. If you've got enough to do it, then great. But I've only got 1 Rhino, and I can't send that up the board, get the Plague Marines out, and then they're going to get killed while everything else is still doing its 5 up move across the board. So it's a bit of a pain. Otherwise, I generally think if they had reduced the points of Plague Marines, then the Death Guard players might not be so vocal with, they've killed because on Facebook it's so dramatic, isn't it? It's like, they've killed the Death Guard, Well, actually, I won the first game with the points change that I played, so I was going into it thinking, I'm fucked, but actually, there we go. So there are things. I suppose maybe we've been, because we started off so strong, it feels like we've been hit the hardest. But you got to take into account every new codex that's come out, everyone's been improved.
Early codex syndrome. That's it's the same with the Necron.
Yeah.
A very early codex, power creep kicks in. The one thing you've got, as I said, the one thing you've got is that early codexes get longer to play with them in this edition.
Yeah.
Whereas the later codexes, you only get so long. You don't get as long as the others. Poor Glenn and his Chaos Space Marines. I don't know when that's going to happen, but he might get a month, and then suddenly there's a new edition. But maybe GW are trolling us, and they'll never give them that second one.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But just remember, when we first started this at the very start of 9th, and it was Death Guard were top tier, and now they're mid tier. People can play them well. The Las Vegas Open, I don't think anyone got to the finals. No one got to the finals with Death Guard. I think there was one Death Guard player who held out pretty well. Wasn't
it the AdMech resurgence? Was that the what's happened on the scene at the moment? AdMech have come back a bit after their nerf.
I still have nightmares about that. One game, the game I played against Glenn's AdMech when we were all together.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said, I played the Necrons against him, and that was, I would say it's a bloodbath, but there was no blood spilt. It was just a load of
oil on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm interested. So I don't know if you know, Shane, but when they bring out a new edition, obviously every edition, I'm assuming everybody gets a new codex, or most people get. Do they do it in the same order, or is it
no? So it changes. It's entirely different each one. So, last edition. So when 8th first came out, there weren't even any. It wasn't like it was as codexes. Effectively, where they moved from editions, they went right. Here are, I I mean, they were like pamphlets. They were like little additions that you would add. So it was really simple. They kept, basic rules, no real stratagems, as it were. So in eighth, people forget, like, Overwatch was just a thing.
Right.
It wasn't a stratagem. Every time someone charged you, you could Overwatch. Like, whatever unit it was, it didn't matter. You just, like, that was a standard. Right, I'm charging you. Great, I'm Overwatching. Roll your dice. And away you go. It wasn't a stratagem. It was only until ninth that it became a stratagem. So it's... But before that, so eighth was a real slimming down of the rules and a simplification, because up to that point, you had, like, first Rogue Trader, then you had second edition, which was the kind of essence of what we all play now, and then it went second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, pretty much all the way through, with various changes as it went, and codexes and stuff like that. But it all led to, like, rule bloat, and just it got too much. And then eighth went, right, we're going to simplify it. We're going to keep it really, really simple. And so rather than having codexes at the beginning, it was just lists and like addendums, like supplements. It was much simpler. And then obviously the codexes started coming out, but they kept it simple. The edition we're in now, because of the nature of the game, simple doesn't work. Like, it starts simple and then becomes more complicated. And that's part of the I suppose part of the good thing about the game, and also a negative. It needs to start simple to get people in, but it needs to get complicated because of the balance. So, in the last edition, there were hardly any terrain rules. There used to be terrain rules. I mean, back in the day, it used to be that if you were firing at the back of a dreadnought, you had a better chance of injury than if you were firing at the front of a dreadnought, because you had different armor saves depending on whether you were firing at the front or the back of a vehicle. It's not that complex now, which is much better, but there needs to be a certain level of, complexity to make the game interesting. Now, eighth was not as complex, and it made it very easy for new players to get into it. But we've got very complex very quickly in ninth, off the back of going back to basics, and that is because of trying to make, that they started really strong with the codexes, and then trying to balance the game off the back of those codexes. And that's going to continue. Like, by the time we get to the Chaos Space Marine Codex, God knows what they're going to give them. And again, a lot of people in the community will be like, "Oh, it's broken," but you don't really know until you play.
What you're telling me is that they could get their 2 wounds at the end of ninth, and we go into 10th, and they go back to 1 wound.
Everyone could go back to 1 wound. There could be anything. Like, what might happen is that we go into 10th, and actually invulnerable saves are gone. It might be that type of approach, because actually what happened was, what's happened through this edition is Space Marines went up to 2 wounds, and then suddenly loads of the weapons do 2 damage. So it's like, okay,
what's the difference?
Why? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and that's why, if you still with Chaos Space Marines, when they charge an attack, they kill everything. They're amazing. They're great. It's only when they get hit back that they're fucked, because they've only got 1 wound. But, like, they're incredible going forward. It is that weird balance that they kind of, misaligned. They're like, right, well, we're going to give everyone 2 wounds. Now we're going to make all the weapons damage too. But now that negates that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure everyone's got invulnerable saves. But, actually, a 4+ invulnerable save is too good. So we're going to add the points to them so you can't have as many of them. Or we're going to make it 5+ invulnerable saves. And then what we're going to do with the psychic characters is we're going to give them a power that turns off invulnerable saves. And it gets ever more complex, which is the natural way that it will always go. So I'm not saying that it shouldn't do that. It's just the speed at which that complexity ramps up. And, it took them I don't know, what, 3 or 4 editions last time round for that complexity to get too much and them to go, right, now we need 8th. This time round, we've got 8th, we've got 9th. That complexity is already there. So I don't know. We'll see what 10th brings, but I can imagine it will be a change to things like invulnerable saves and armor saves generally. I think that's what I would expect to happen when we get to the next edition. There'll be something that tries to equalize it to bring balance to the game. I could be wrong.
Mm. One thing that's just, as much as I really am into the game, one thing that just confuses me is the fact that it just seems like it's so disjointed. Why is it all just? Why do they not just go, right? All right, well, let's leave 9th edition running until, let's say, 2024, and then in that time we're going to go. I know it's money, but I know it's always money, isn't it? But let's just say 2024, and then we go, here comes 10th edition, and then here comes everyone's Codex at the same time, and then let's rather than this random change. And then why change points mid-season? It's baffling to go. And then I know like FAQs and stuff going, let's change some wording here, because I was having a look at it earlier. It's like, I actually looked at the Thousand Suns for your Hellbrute. They've taken out malicious volleys.
Yeah.
I don't know why, or I
mean,
know.
Some of it I get. It's because they write the rules, and so the game. Part of the game is you play the game rules as read.
Yeah.
Right. And the trouble is that sometimes play testers, as well as when they're designing it and stuff like that, they'll play it, they'll write it, and they'll go, right, that makes sense. Everyone has a different interpretation, and interpretation is subjective.
Mm.
And so they're like, right, actually, too many people are being confused by this, so we're gonna change it. We're gonna update that, and I get that, and that makes sense, because the intention is, in that case, the intention is balanced and is probably pure, and makes sense. But it's just people will play it the best way they can for their own purposes.
Yeah.
I think, the disjointed nature of it is that. I think the trouble is the GW is stuck in a really difficult position in the publish versus digital world, where they're almost scared of going digital because they make so much money from the physical, that they're worried that going digital is going to suddenly lose. Like, look at us, right? How many books do we all have to play the game, from codexes to core books, stuff like that? We've all got the core book.
They can still charge to go digital. They could, but it just have to be so much, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what they will, the nervousness. So it comes down to business practice, right? So the nervousness will be, we will lose money. What will actually happen is they'll be like, right, so we can't charge 25 quid or 50 quid for the core rulebook anymore. We're only going to be able to charge 20 quid for it. But what they will actually find is that more people will buy it at 20 quid and less people will pirate it or get it off Warhammerpedia. There will be less. There will be more goodwill in people following and updating and actually paying for things like the app.
Yeah. By
going digital. But as a business owner, that's an incredible gamble to take if it goes wrong.
Yeah, I know, but the production costs would surely go to, like, it must cost them. I don't know how much does it cost to print a book rather than just have it done digitally. It must be much cheaper because you ain't got to pay for the physical.
They do seem to be having this sort of steady walk towards subscription services. So could they do it that way as well?
I think that.
Are you going to follow the Space Marines? Well, subscribe to it, and every time you get an FAQ, you pay such and such a month, and you get all the FAQs, you get all the new codexes. You just do it that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sensible way to go for a lot of people. It'd be shit if you run a lot of armies and you end up paying £60 a month to stay up to date with all the armies. But not many people do that.
it's no different to running 6 armies now and buying because I've got to now because I want to play these other. I've got to buy a Necron Codex. I've got to buy a Space Marine, and I've got to buy an Ultramarine book. So that's 3 more. That's 60 quid, already. And it puts me off. I'd have already bought them if I had the money. If they were a tenner each, I probably would have bought them by now digitally because then I just have them and I could peruse and work out lists.
Just not read them for a few months as well.
Well, that's it as well. But
if they're digital, you can't change it.
Yeah, but then even on a boring way, like they're already not a very carbon neutral company because of all the plastic they're pumping out. So at least if you're not cutting down so many trees, then you win over a bit of faith with people, especially like now where it's everyone wants to be carbon neutral and all this sort of stuff.
As I said, I think some of this is coming down to, it's a big company. It's a slow evolution. It's not speed, but business terms, it's not a startup speedboat that's very easy to turn and change. It's more of an ocean liner. It takes a little bit of time to repoint where they're going. I think they have to move to digital, and whether that is subscription, as you said, Dave, which probably makes the most sense because they get recurring spend, and everyone that's in the hobby is going to keep paying for it, and even people that dip in and out are going to come back and pay. Makes the most sense. But for the olds at the top, the people that have been there, from the 60s, which some of them have, print and paper is what they know, and it's a very nervy world to push them fully digital. I think it will work for them, and I think it'll actually be better for the business long term, but it's slow steps, and I think they're getting there. I just think it would be better for us in the hobby if they got there quicker.
Yeah, and this is the thing, they must get, I mean, imagine they don't, the people that matter don't really give a shit, but they must be bored of hearing everyone going, oh, I'm not paying this for this, I'm moaning about the app, moaning about Warhammer Plus, I'm moaning about this, I'm moaning about that. Just make it digital.
All the people that care about it, all the guys that make content, all the people that run the social media, all the people in the stores, they'll probably say exactly the same things we're saying. They just, they won't, because
they'll lose their job.
They'll get the tin tack,
When we're all getting muted now next week.
We're going to cancel. Games Workshop cancels Iron and Ceramite.
It's like,
so they're going to steal all our ideas like they've been doing before.
They're listening to us right now.
Yeah.
Well, suddenly,
what a good idea!
Everything's going to go digital. It's going to be like suddenly, here's all of your 9th edition codexes, and for those that want to subscribe early, 10th edition rules.
You want to get ahead of the competition.
That's it.
So
then there wouldn't even. Oh, I was going to say, then there wouldn't even need to be editions.
Oh,
that's the other
so
thing.
It could be a rolling thing, yeah.
Rolling update. The thing with editions is that they were to sell new armies. Like if you look at every box set, every edition, it comes with 2 armies and the book.
Yeah.
So Indomitus, this edition was the Space Marines and the Necrons, and then before that, there was one that was Templars and Eldar, and there was one that was the first one was or second edition was Space Marines and Orcs, and that's it. They've used each edition to sell 2 armies. So
they could still do that though. They could say
they could.
Here's 10th and the edition. Like what are they doing now? It's like quarterly. We're going to get a new. I can't remember what they said.
The Eldritch Omens that's just come out, which is the Eldar and Chaos.
Yeah.
And I can see all the Chaos players twitching because they don't have a Codex, but the Eldar do. They don't. It feels really cruel. Like it feels like now GW are just teasing the Chaos players. No.
Heresy doesn't pay.
Yeah, you're not having a Codex. The Eldar can, you can.
Yeah. And by the way, the Emperor's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Horus isn't.
Yeah. Your digital NFT of the Emperor.
No, don't say NFT.
Well, I think a
10
subscription
grand, you
service.
can win every game you ever played.
I think a subscription it would be a really good way to go. I think they could still do their DLC stuff. They could keep it current, and because I do really like this idea of the Nachmund stuff. I like the idea of the flashpoints and the evolving of the lore. And we talked about in previous pods about like the Primaris. Is it a con? Is it a way to progress it? They could do it through the subscription service and keep it sort of, I wouldn't say exciting, because I think it is exciting to us nerds anyway, but have this breathe a bit of freshness into it.
I think part of the their argument against it will always be, well, won't always be, and that's the key thing, is that for a period, and this is what it is up to now, they've been like, we need to have an offline version for everyone. So we need, that's what it's been up until now. It's been like, we need to make sure that everyone can access this hobby. So that's why it's print. That's why it's offline. That's why you've got what you've got.
Yeah. There's a lot of 90-year-old pensioners without any iPads that play Warhammer.
I think that's now changing, because that's the way it is, and I think they need to make a move to do it. I don't think that. Like, I think they should still do like an annual core. Like, it could be that annual core book, and that's fine for those that never want to go digital for the next couple of years, and then everything else for everyone else is digital. That would be my approach to cover both bases.
But the thing is, I don't even mind buying a core rule book because it's got a nice bit of lore. I haven't read all of it, obviously, because I don't even look at the Codex. It doesn't apply to me, but it has got a nice bit of lore in it. And it's a good book to buy, and I don't mind buying the Death Guard Codex. I don't like the fact that now my Codex that I own physically isn't right. That bugs the hell out of me, because it's like, if I want to look at something and I've got looking at it and go, oh, well, that's not even the points now. It's just these the little things. I don't like the fact they just change it.
When I was going to say though, when was the last? Have you ever built a list by the points in your book?
No, it is by Battle Scribe, because the Games Workshop app is shit. But
I think they heard you, John.
But for argument's sake, I've paid for something.
Yes.
That's been written.
Yeah.
Why the fuck are you changing it?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. Like,
yeah,
the army I bought is the army I bought. When it comes to the next edition, and it's 10th edition, and you go, right now everything costs different points, fine. But for the game that I'm physically playing now, it confuses me. And
I think this is, as I said, this is where they're caught between two worlds, right? And it's exactly it. It's like back in the day, like when second edition, when I started playing it, that was it. It didn't matter. Like you had to build your list off the points in the book, because that was it. There was the internet was a burgeoning thing. There was no digital update
back in my day.
Yeah, exactly. old man. Like, you had to build it off the book. Everyone had to have the same book, and that's what you all built your points off. And there was no mid-tier update. It was years between second and third edition, and years between codexes, and some editions didn't even change codexes. And those are the points you dealt with, and that was the game. I think as we've got to the digital age where they can update points the way they're doing, and they're like, well, this is for the tournament scene, yada yada yada, they've not adapted to the way they need to. Now, there could be an argument. You go, well, actually, what you'll get, is we're only going to do points digitally from now on. You can buy a codex, but effectively, what you're buying is new lore.
Yeah.
So that book, you've got that nice hardback book. It's actually, there's nothing in there. Maybe there's some data sheets, but there's no points. All it is lore, and you can buy that if you want it. But actually, the core thing to play the game is the digital subscription.
Yeah,
because that's updated and that's always available.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the core book, that on paper is great, the amount of times that I've played a game with Tom or you, John, and we've had a sort of what we can do it exactly like the other day, last week, where we played our game, and we opened it up and
pretended to a lunch break.
yeah, and we looked through the rules together, and you wouldn't be able to do that in a digital version of a core book. I don't think with the same thing, but we both sat there, we looked through the book, we discussed it, we put it on the group chat because we still weren't sure.
Was this the charging through terrain?
Yeah.
So
I argue to save some units.
I was going to say, I think you were in trouble there, John. I think you just add, in that instance, I think you add the distance over the.
Yeah, which is exactly what we did in the end. But I don't think you'd have that chance. Whereas on the core rules, that was, I don't know, you probably wouldn't have that in the tournament scene because you'd be a bit more advanced than me and John. But I find it quite nice to go, while we're still learning, while we're still getting the game and confused about some things, to sit there and go, look, that is what it says, and then have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
You would lose some of that with the digital version of it, I think.
Yeah.
So having the core book there, that as an option. But like the Codex, I mean, I love my Black Templar Codex. It's got a lot of lore in it. I've looked at the data sheets, but I've never used the data sheets in that Codex. It's mostly for the lore, the relics, what it contains, and learning a bit more about my rules and the stratagems. Yeah. And then using the battle scribe, or I don't even have the Warhammer app, in all honesty. I'm not even used that shit. The battle scribe to work out what lists I'm going to run. So I think it definitely needs to go in the digital direction, but there should be an element of availability should people want it to have that.
Yeah, I mean,
or that collectible stuff or the core rules.
That's where I think that the point there is exactly it. Is that they can still have their GW can still have their physical revenue stream without a doubt, because as I said, I will always buy like the Space Wolves Codex. I might not buy the Space Marines Codex because actually I can get everything I need for the Space Marines Codex digitally, but I'll always buy the supplement Space Wolves because that's what I like. I think the thing that disappointed me with this chapter approved, the last chapter approved, and the chapter approved before that, you had a scaled down version of the core rules. So it was almost like you could take it anywhere with you, and it has everything the same as the hardback core rules, that massive book that we've all got. I love that because it's got loads of stuff in it. But if I'm going to different places to play games, a little slimmed down version with just the core rules is really handy because it's exactly the same as what we've got printed everywhere else. It's just more convenient. I don't need to lug this massive hardback with all the lore in it, which I love and would buy anyway.
Yeah.
I've also got this really, slimmed down, useful version of the rules that I can go, well, you've got your copy, and actually all it is made smaller. So if I look through my little chapter approved one and say, okay, it's on this page and this one, and you've got your big core book, you can find it in exactly the same space.
Yeah.
It was just a really useful thing. But in this edition, they've gone and said, no, we're not going to give you those rules anymore. We're just going to give you the mission pack. I think that was a real misstep.
Yeah. I mean, they can make it so user-friendly as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest gripe with the Warhammer app is it doesn't flow very well. The Battlescribe one, you go through it, it tells you exactly what you've got, what you've equipped, what relics you've used, and at the bottom it tells you all the rules that you're going to need to know.
Yeah,
simple.
It's very useful.
It's incredibly useful. Warhammer could do exactly the same thing, and you could have it on the app, and you could just go like to say, me and John were confused the other day about the charging over terrain. So we could literally type in charging over terrain, and it should come up with something. Warhammer, I'm sure they have the capability of doing something like that, where you can just search it, and it goes, oh look, the rules are here, and we discuss it, and that's it, problem solved, rather than flipping through a book. And it can make things, because obviously with the tournament scene, it's quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to get games
you got
done,
2.5 hours, and it's on a timer.
Yeah. So that sort of thing would be so beneficial to just the little nuances and things that people aren't sure about. Because I don't know anything about the Death Guard Codex. I know a fair bit. from playing with John, but I don't know everything. I know a fair bit from the Necron ones from playing you, but not everything. And having that, just showing it in like this is what it is, would speed up things as well. So I think they're missing a trick with it, really. And hopefully it does go that way, because it would be a lot easier. And yeah, hopefully that is the way that it's going to go in. But with the way they've been with this bloody app, and even Warhammer Plus, I know we've always been whinging about Warhammer Plus, but everything they're doing digitally is mediocre.
Yeah,
at best.
I'd love to see behind the scenes, because I always feel like I don't know, Games Workshop, because we're new to it, and always sort of, I don't know, like the outside looking in is a sort of indie, not very mainstream thing. So you think, well, the people that make it's like a couple of people in a room, in a bedroom, still making it. It's a fucking massive company that have all this access to the tech and can do this stuff, but they're doing it like they're just like us trying to make it. It's like if we developed an app for something we half-assed made up and went, we'll just play it how it is. But yeah, like you said, why isn't it so fucking streamlined that we sat there for ages going, well, we know how to charge and we know how terrain works, but we're just trying to figure out exactly with this one unit, are we measuring the unit going through this tiny gap, or can it walk over the terrain? And it took us ages to come up with it, which is baffling, because the base was never going to fit through the gap. But look at the model, it could easily walk over this 1.3 inch lump. It was like we were just trying to do it properly and work it out, because logic dictates this thing would have kicked that all over and walked through it. But because it's the machine it was,
it's not breachable.
Well, and that's it. And that's what
it's not infantry.
But it wasn't clear to us at the time. Maybe looking back, it was like,
but I think we've done the right thing in there. I think we looked at it and we worked it out, and we done.
But there's so many rules that, depending how you're playing, you read it one way and you go, well, it's obvious. But then the opponent goes, I don't think so, because I read it like this.
If you were trying to get your blight hauler through the exact same gap, I would have done exactly what you done.
Exactly. And it wasn't being a dick. It was because we were trying to record something properly. And I was like, I feel like looking at that unit, yes, it can. But looking at the base, no, it can't. Yeah. So where do we play? And that's what. And we got stuck. We ended up having like lunch while we were talking about it. And it's just like, why is that so fucking confusing?
There are things as well where depending on who you play and who you play against, you would just simply say, right, the rule says the base can't move through it.
Yeah.
The wall itself, when I remember looking at the pitch, the wall itself is breach like that. You might have said that's breachable, but then it means that only an infantry unit can breach it. That's fine. That's not an infantry unit, but it can go over because it's over whatever it was, so it's up and down.
Yeah.
But there will be people that will just say, well, look, this unit is a big fucking tank. That's a couple of barrels.
Yeah.
So narratively, we're just going to say it goes through.
Yeah.
And that's between you and your opponent as well, because that's the other thing. You're not playing a tournament, so you just need to. Sometimes you just sit there and go, you can do that, you can do this. It all depends on the circumstance of what you agree together. Sometimes, like there will be times where you'll be like, no, I really don't want you to charge that, so no, you can't get through that. And then it's a dice roll. Then it's a dice roll.
Yeah. And that's where we were. It was getting to the point I was going to say, well, we'll roll for it. But it was just like, in a game that's been all around for so long, why are you rolling for stuff that there should just be a rule to say, hey, you can't fucking do it? Or,
well,
do it.
Obviously,
I can't remember what the unit was. Who was charging
it was a tactical war suit that was in between a load of fucking barrels.
So the tactical war suit wouldn't be allowed to go through the wall.
Yeah.
But would be able to go over the barrels. So it's adding the inches to the barrel charge, as long as it could fit in after the barrels between the two units.
Which it could fit. And the thing is, it's one of those things, it's like, so we end up going, add the 2 inches on. Yeah. So if he rolled a 4 or 5, I'd have been laughing, but he rolled a fucking 11, so it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
we went through it for all this time, and it was like, if he rolls like a 6, I'm fine. He rolled an 11, so it was like we went through it all, and I was like, for fuck's sake! I stuck this in the mud for ages to try and save myself. Didn't.
but that's I think in that, you know, the rule, yeah, it played exactly right. He can't break down the wall to his left, because it's not breachable and he's not infantry. He can go over the barrels, so it's adding to the charge, and if you make the charge, it's like a game played against Tom. I can't remember who we were playing. He had his biker units. Oh, it was Necron versus his Imperial. Was it Imperial? No, it was Blood Angels. And he had a biker unit and was like, oh no, biker units are allowed to go through walls. No, they're not. Didn't matter. We played the game, then afterwards we talked about it and said, no, probably not. Wouldn't have changed the game.
Yeah.
But at the time I was like, can they? And he seemed so sure. I was like, okay, fair enough. And then we looked it up afterwards and it's like, no, they can't. But, you know, it's part of learning the game.
Yeah.
So, back coming from Tommy Loves Twilight on the last one, Tommy's a fucking cheat on this one, yeah?
Well,
what I will tell you is, you know, bikes cannot go through walls.
We've been trying to spin the narrative that you're the cheat, Dave, just for a bit of fun. I don't know if you've been paying attention.
No, not really.
Yeah, but fuck it. Tom's the cheat today. He's not here to defend himself. When you're not here to defend yourself, you're a cheat.
Yeah,
hey, we've all done it. It's accidental versus malicious.
I have never got anything wrong or misinterpreted anything.
I think that's the thing. It is just being a bit clueless about stuff, and
you don't mean to do it. There's malicious cheating, and there's being oblivious.
And I think that is what I always claim to be, is because I won't like
I mean, what's this litany go off on?
What do you mean I can't move these while you're not looking?
So I mean, like I said earlier, or on the last one, not earlier,
a couple of weeks,
like I said a week ago, I'm in it for fun, and that's what I think everyone else is in this group, at least. I think that Games Workshop have a part to play in making it fun, and I think that they could streamline things and make it a lot clearer and user friendly. Hopefully they go down that route, but I think I don't disagree with any of the points increases. Really, I think that overall they've looked at it. I wouldn't say they know best.
It's selling models, though, isn't it?
They do. Yeah, there is an element of that, but they're not going to do something to completely alienate things and ruin the game either.
There's still balance in the game that they need to factor
exactly in. And like the points increase on sort of Redemptor Dreadnoughts, it's going to stop the spam, and it's going to affect people who are playing these meta lists that aren't run for fun anyway. And it is the more competition list. And if you want to go down that route, then kudos to you. Great. If that's how you want to play it. But the vast majority of people in this hobby do it for a laugh, and they won't always run meta lists. I
think GW, sorry Dave, I think GW want their tournaments to be narrative. So I think a lot of these changes are made to make the tournaments narrative. Which, sorry, back to you, but that's the point with like the Redemptor spam.
Yeah, you're not going to have 3 dreadnoughts in an army, and that's what I do like the Redemptors, and I think they're cool units, but I refuse to run more than 1 dreadnought in an army, because you just wouldn't really happen, would it? A dreadnaught's sort of mean you await in the lore, at least from my understanding, you awaken them in a massive time of need. You're not going to suddenly go, actually, we've got 15 dreadnoughts out the back, get them all up. Right.
Collecting them.
Yeah. And so it just takes the fun away. I think the meta chasers are going to be really affected by this. And if that's the way you play, fair enough, but it's going to keep happening because you're only going after the win rather than anything else. I think for the vast majority of people who want to play different lists all the time, and want to experiment and have fun and run funky lists and do something slightly different, it's just going to make them think in a slightly different way and make the game different. I don't think it's going to make it any worse. I don't think it's going to make it necessarily any better. I think it's going to make it slightly different. And like you say, you may have to run a few less poxwalkers, but you can stick a better thing on the plague burst crawler or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So you get something in return. So yeah, I think the main problem with this is people are running these really super competitive lists that are now pissed off. They spend a load of money and it's not going to work.
Yeah, they're buying like multi-monster, multi-vehicle, multi-dreadnought lists that they need to give you. You look at the actual thing; it's like the points changes. Wow, the army list should be rule of cool. That's the way to go, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to run? What's cool? If that makes sense, then do it, and that's the way to do it. Obviously, when you still want to have a competitive list, but it's interesting. Like there are certain factions where they've just gone, we're going to reduce the points and everything, like the Necrons, and I'm like looking at it going, shit, I don't have enough models anymore. And maybe they've done that to go like, you've got to buy more Necrons.
Yeah.
But like, I think it is a move to try and change those people that spat. And I think all of the Codex changes indicate that as well, is that GW doesn't want people spamming particular units, like the Tau railgun thing that's just come out. They don't want people just turning up to a tournament with free, whatever they are. I can't remember the things, but the hammerhead railguns. They don't want,
or a storm surge.
Yeah, they don't want 3 of those and a couple of riptides and then a load of Kroot running around in the front to make up the points difference. They want a balanced narrative list.
Yeah.
It's difficult with tournaments because people are trying to win. They're not playing for the narrative element of it. So it's a balance that's going to, for us, it doesn't matter. It'll be fine. We're not going to, we're not going to worry about it. Like if I turn up and I've got 3 shards of the Satan or whatever, so one of you, I'm not playing. Like you're going to go, I'm not playing that. What the fuck are you doing?
I would.
Because
That'd be
it's no fun.
But I see what you're saying. Yeah. It's definitely like, I'm only going to run Crusader list now, like Assault Intercessors, and my Intercessors are going to be put into my Crusader squads to fill them, so I don't have to buy any more Crusader squads. And and that's how I'm going to run it. I'm going to run Sword Brethren or possibly Blade Guard, and a Dreadnought.
Oh.
It's a narrative list, and I find that more interesting personally than 3 Dreadnoughts and a Primaris Chaplain on a bike. And
I mean, that's a one-off sort of. You can't keep doing that, can you? Like if you're going to run it, like if you go, right, do you know what? I fancy just trying it out, see how dominant it is. If you do that every time, where's the fun? Like
people stop playing.
Yeah.
They're just like, what list are you going to run, Dave? Oh, I'm running my punchy dreadnought chaplain bike. It's like,
I'm busy with that night.
Yeah,
Sorry.
remember that time I just wiped off the table in turn 2? Yeah, well, I'm going to do that again. Oh, all right. Quick night then. Fine. Yeah. But yeah, it's a funny old game, isn't it? How they it's so divisive. And this is the thing. You can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time.
Very true.
Thank you, Bob.
That's where they're stuck. And why won't they just please me all of the time? I'm some of the people. Pick me. And the other thing is you got to fight social media, because no matter what you do, you've lost already before you even announce it, because people got their hopes up.
Yeah.
The idea of what they want. So you can't.
Well, you say that, but the Black Templar release, I got my hopes up, and that went very well.
Glenn's not here to tell you to fuck off, so I will. Yeah, you're the anomaly. I don't know how you got away with that.
But it's because they listen to this pod, don't they? And they go, actually, fucking hell, New Primados, what a good idea.
But the Black Templars, lore-wise, are cool as shit. So why not give them a cool as shit fucking Codex? It's OP as hell, but it's cool. So fuck it, let's do it.
But is it OP? Because like that.
I mean, it's not OP.
The vow is really good.
It's pretty
yeah,
big.
no, it is good. Like that 5-up, the vows.
Yeah.
Like that 5-up, but you take away cover.
Yeah.
So on the way getting there,
I think it's one of those things that it just said with Space Marines there is like flavor of the not flavor of the month, but flavor of a period, right? You know, back when I started, Space Wolves was very much that was the thing. Pre that, like if you looked at the original 3 chapters, this is back in the day before they'd worked it all out. You had Blood Angels, Ultramarines, and Iron Fist. Not Iron Fist. Imperial Fist. They were the 3. So you had red, yellow, and blue, and that was where Space Crusade came in. So the first big, broad game that everyone got involved with, and the second edition, so after Rogue Trader, that was all Blood Angels. So they were. You could paint them whatever colour you'd want, but in the box they were painted Blood Angels. And they were your first 3 actual chapters that most people painted and understood lore-wise, and then stuff started coming out for all of the others, like Dark Angels, like Space Wolves, so on and so forth. So it was interesting how it's developed to have like Black Templars being as popular as they are, because they didn't start as one of the originals. The way that Games Workshop actually built up all of those different lore elements and made it available to everyone to get there, it was quite impressive. Because, as I said, it didn't start that way. There were effectively 3 chapters that people built off, and there does seem to be like a chapter Legion flavor of the edition, shall we say. So right now it's Black Templars. It will be interesting to see what happens next one. You get the feeling it could be something like White Scars or Salamanders.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Don't know which way it will go.
Or Black Templars again, that'd be even cooler.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they'll give it the focus.
I don't think you got
being honest.
No, I think I'm being a bit over optimistic there, but
it probably won't be one of the core ones. That's the thing, is it like one of the founding chapters probably won't get it, because Black Templars, one of the first,
the second founding, isn't they?
Exactly, that I can think of that's had this much focus. So it will be like, okay, do they look beyond first founding to another second founding?
Yeah,
it'll be something completely left field. Like Iron Snake seems to be popular for books and stuff. Like, they've got a couple of books, haven't they? That came out. And I see like on Twitter, a lot of people come up. It's just one of those things that always seems to trend, is Iron Snakes in Warhammer. I don't really know too much about them. I think they're one of those chapters that's just out there doing its own thing. But it's just one of the names I always see pop up.
Yeah.
They did get a book not too long ago. So maybe they'll just go with something completely random.
It could be.
And loved. Yeah. I doubt it, because where's the money in that? But you never know.
Or will they go in terms of a different direction in terms of the Imperium? Like, you look at a lot of the Astra Militarum Imperial Guard models, they've just got rid of all the Steel Legion ones, all of the different ones.
They're slimming it down, right?
Is that in anticipation of going, fuck yeah, a load of new Imperial Guard models? A load of new Steel Legion, the new Krieg for the kill team have just come out.
They just
Katie has fallen. They can have
alternate sprues for the guard, didn't they?
Yeah, but that's only for the Cadian sort of.
Hit the spot that people wanted, but were they going to?
I really like those, but yeah. So who knows? Who knows what GW do, because someone's going to whinge no matter what they do.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's
they can't be right.
That's what I hear. Yeah, we can have a pod if we can't whinge.
Yeah. Personally, I like to see some new. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know what Death Guard looked like a couple of years ago. I only know that obviously they got Lord of Virulence was the new model for 9th. So obviously, I don't know what was new before that. Like,
so a lot of the Death Guard that you're currently running are 8th edition, and new to 8th edition, because the 8th edition was Ultramarines versus Death Guard.
Right. So I might have to do just a little bit of digging.
Plague Wars.
Probably a couple of Google searches would find out. I'd like to know what was new in 8th. Like, what's the newer models? Just out of interest, really.
Most of the Death Guard that you're currently running are new from 8th. Yeah. Like the whole Primaris was 8th. All of that stuff was new. The Dark Imperium, all of that came from 8th edition. Pre-8th, it's all Firstborn, old school.
So do you know what Death Guard looked like before that? Like what was the...
You didn't have a lot. There weren't a lot of models. Like that's what I mean. There wasn't the focus on factions in the same way that there has been.
Okay.
So like you would have like upgrade sprues and stuff like that, but the filthy, putrefying, exploding bits and pieces off Terminators and stuff like that just didn't exist in the same way. You would have the odd model, but there wasn't like the range that it is now.
Okay.
There was no Blight Hauler, there was no Bloat Drone, there was no all of the vehicles you've got apart from the Rhino, none of that existed.
Oh wow, that'd be interesting to go, like, just to see that. So really, they could well and truly come out in the next edition with something completely new that's barely had anything.
Yeah.
One
of the resurgence, one of the reasons that things like the Death Guard had a resurgence is because of that element of a new edition with all of these new models. Before it didn't, they were, you're part of the just Chaos Space Marines that has a mark of,
right? Okay.
As opposed to actually having these cool models that are built up. There's no metal miniatures. I mean, I say there are none. There are some, but nowhere near the same way.
Oh wow.
Maybe we get some Emperor's Children. That'd be cool.
What I was going to say is, again, if you look at Chaos factions, other than Lucius, there's nothing specific for any of it. Really, a lot of the Chaos factions, Khorne, yes, because that's easy enough. You just you can do that. Black Legion, yes. So Chaos Space Marines in general, yes. But actual, you get Slanesh Noise Marines.
Yeah.
Nothing much else.
Really, is there?
No.
Like,
maybe that's next then. That'd be cool.
But I've heard a lot of rumours regarding the return of Primarchs as well. So maybe we'll have
steady on, Dave.
Lionel Johnson, but no. But obviously, if we go down that route,
well, he's
apparently
the next
one.
Are
we going to have Fulgrim? Are we going to have? Is it Angron as well? Is it out?
So Angron already exists. He's not dead. So they could bring him back.
Is he a model?
No, but they could make him a model.
So Angron, Fulgrim, Lionel Johnson. Who's the other one? From it's Chaos one. I can't remember his name.
Perturabo.
Him as well.
One?
Yeah, Perturabo's the
yes, that's the one.
Iron Fist. No, Iron Hand.
No.
Yeah. But
so are we going to have a new Primarch and then a whole new range following that?
I heard Ferrus Manus got his head put back on, so he's coming back.
Spoilers.
I've heard the discussion of this, and part of it is it's nice to have those models, and that's it's good, but it also actually moves the lore forward. Now, for a long time, the lore was very static. It's what you made it. There was no progression. Once you start progressing, you then have to have a narrative. You have to have a narrative that has to move forward. You have to have an endpoint. and that in itself can also be a bit problematic.
But is that the way it's going to go? Is that going to be a load of new Primarchs? Are we going to have the new heresy?
Well, we might get to what's happened with the Old World and Age of Sigmar, which I would not like to see happen, which is whereby you take the Old World, you take Warhammer as it used to be,
and the Necrons press the delete button.
No, I mean not 40k, but yeah, like back with the elves and all of the undead and stuff like that, and they had the Age of Chaos, and then suddenly the end times came, and then you've got Age of Sigmar, and then all of the old models that you had, you can't use anymore. All of that is a waste of time, and which is what all of the old world players kicked off about. Are they going to do that 40k? Are we going to get to a point where they go, right, now we get to the end times and Abaddon is going to crash Black Fortress into terror, and it all explodes, and we're all going to be on our knees crying to our codexes because it's now 40k Age of Abaddon.
Stone Age, 40k Stone Age.
Yeah. we're at the beck and whim of the GW gods.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that would be, at this point, in this economy, it would be suicide to do something stupid like that. Because
I think
they're listening, so we'll know.
Yeah, don't do that, GW.
At least let us finish the fucking Imperium magazine, Jesus. Could you imagine, like, just completely reset
halfway through? Oh, by the way.
Oh my god, that'd be insane.
40k Age of Abaddon, new rule set, new miniatures.
The thing that scares me most about that is then going to my missus and then going, by the way, I need to spend a lot of money because all this not worth anything anymore.
That display case I want to get, that's all going to go in there. It's not coming back out. Yeah, that would be a really hard conversation, wouldn't it? Oh god, that's nightmare fuel.
Yeah, well, good luck to us all when that happens. Start practicing now.
Why did we say it out loud? You know they're listening. You know they're going to do this to us now. Oh.
Yeah, someone from GW is just like, write that down.
I told you we were going to do it. Yeah. They said it. Quick, go.
They said it on YouTube. They must want it. Oh fuck. Oh. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we wrap up?
I think that's a jolly old pod, that one.
Yeah, it's good conversation.
That's the title, a jolly old pod.
Jolly old pod. I think we just need to get rid of Glenn and Tom. We're away.
Get rid of them cheaters. Well, let's hope that our models aren't completely fucking worthless by tomorrow. And we'll leave you with that thought. And we'll.
Well, I mean, my model's worthless today, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we will not only exterminatus the pod, we'll exterminatus all your fun little toys, and we'll see you again when we're all poor and we're starting new armies. See you later.
Bye-bye.
As always, we would like to thank you for listening to our Iron and Ceramite podcast. If you liked us, then you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other good podcast services. Just remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
All right. Should we do the usual toilet break and then?
Yes.
Yep. Sounds like a plan.
Right.
Oh no.
All right. Well, we're on a roll. I'll intro it and we'll just pretend that didn't happen.